right. Jim. No.
No, I like CBS. Oh, good.
Yeah, that's really a close one.
He's been around so long.
Anyway, you want the pay for it, show it.
Anyhow.
This is scary.
Got a wide angle, huh?
It's missing!
Got a wide
Big
angle.
angle. It's a big angle.
What happened?
I'll be 18.
He just woke up.
Can you smile? Yeah, there you go. There you go. Wait, now it's looking up a little bit. Tyler, look over there. Well, hi there. What is that? Am I going to get operated on? What is that, huh? What is that? I don't know.
No, but I'm getting it already.
He's so kind. He's going to actually eat those yams.
Actually going to save some for us?
Yeah, I'm just taking samples.
So he's going to come back and get the food later.
It's a sample time. This isn't really our time to come up here yet, see? So I'm coming by and helping everybody sample there.
Don't believe him.
No breakfast this morning.
Is this your dressing?
No breakfast.
That's my dressing. Share this food.
In before it's our turn, you know?
Pets. They had a big special on pets and how you can kill your pets by giving them kid straps for Thanksgiving. Like what they can't do.
Oh, really? Which ones are you supposed to give them?
Pets eat like anything that would make us sick, right? And then they eat the stuff that we eat and they get sick.
It's got some camera
She was remembering something. You tell them.
What did you remember?
I don't remember. Must be my age.
By the way, this is the last day that Vicki will ever be in her 30s. Effective tomorrow, she enters a new era. The second half of her life.
So it's really downhill from here.
It's hard to believe that she's only 10 years older than me.
I thought you was freelancing.
Huh?
I thought you was freelancing.
Yeah. It's not my turn to eat yet, so wait. How's it taste?
Great. Amazing.
What's the best?
The dressing.
You can ask them questions afterwards, too, if you want to.
I tell you, most of you know that our daughter Jennifer goes to Duke University, and I just came back Tuesday night, and her volleyball team, who she is co-captain of, won their Atlantic Coast Conference playoff game in 3, and she made first team all-conference, and they will be having one set of games at Duke, another at the regionals, and then after that, which they will win, I'm sure, they will go to Austin, Texas for the, I guess it's the second step. What is that? Yeah, the regionals, and then after that, the playoffs are in Madison, Wisconsin. So, but they finished 20th in the nation, and Jennifer has really played well, and I just am very proud of her. All of us are, and I just thought I would share that with you. Another Rohrig with sports and so forth. So, that's our good news.
Very good.
Sit on, then back to George, and he can point out the next table.
Looks great around here, but there's too many empty places.
Yeah, nobody
Yeah.
came this time.
Does anybody know where Martin Marie is?
Oh, yeah, they had to go with, their brother come out, Joe.
Oh, Earl came out.
And so they went up to Dorothy and Tut's.
Oh. Well, our family's getting along pretty good. We've got one new one over here. That's Tyler. And everybody else is in pretty good shape. No problem. That's Sherry and Tom's baby. As you know, I took a little vacation this fall. Went up to Michigan, played golf with one of my with Peggy's cousins, and we had a real nice time there. And then we went in my motorhome on up into as far as Portland, Maine, and down as far as Washington D.C. and saw most everything in between: Philadelphia, New York, Boston, and stopped in Shrewsbury and saw Paul's boy. He just bought him a new home and moved in Massachusetts. Had a real nice visit with them. And since I got home, I've been quite busy, but I've been enjoying myself. Just this past week, went up to see my son Paul in Sacramento. Just got back Tuesday. So that was a nice trip. And
Saw you do up there? Saw who up there?
my son Steve and Robin and Scott and Linda and Layla Mae, my great-granddaughter.
How's Robin doing?
Robin's not doing too well, but she's still working, still getting around, but her legs get numb on her, and her left eye has got about 80% vision left. So she's not doing too well, but she's still battling as much as she can. Anybody else like to say anything here? Roger?
I think you pretty well covered it.
What about your granddaughter?
My great-granddaughter, or this granddaughter, Jennifer? Oh, yeah, that's right. If anybody wants to stop around and see the picture of her fiance, he's in Korea right now. Should be home, he hopes, in January. And let's see.
July.
Well, they're figuring on getting married in July, so everybody keep the whole month open. But he's a real nice fella. He's a Marine, and very, very friendly and accommodating. So I'm happy with him, and I'm sure Jennifer is too. Okay.
Rosa. That's north of San Francisco. Melanie is living in Marin County, going to, that's her daughter. Where does she go? Berkeley. And who else is in that family? Stephen lives in Santa Rosa still. And David's in Los Angeles with his new wife.
Stephanie said they couldn't come this time, but hope to make it next time.
Yeah, they're in Texas, I believe, right now. And I'm in Riverside. And this is a 1 and 2-day anniversary for my 20-year-old heart. Isn't it? All of you boys with heart disease, start now campaigning for the new parts. At any rate, we're on NBC. Thank you. Aunt Betty?
We're still on the corner, Delaware and Yorktown. But I don't know how long we'll be there. Our house is up for demolition. We don't know for sure when. They told us the other day it might be a year. So we'll just take it a day at a time. Clyde is in Denver. You know, he's in the process of moving. In the meantime, he's staying with me. He's been there about 7 months, and he'll be there, I think, until Michael graduates this spring. He's wanting to stay because Michael's in sports. Michael is 6'7". He's on the basketball team, and I guess he's their #1 player now.
Now where?
At Villa Park. Let's see. Is there any other news?
How about Jeff and his job?
Jeff is, let him tell about it.
I just started with Arthur Anderson, and they put me in Albuquerque for about a month, so that's pretty interesting.
Behind bar?
Should have.
Arthur Anderson in Newport.
That's one of the big six accounting firms. It's one of the big six accounting firms, so it's kind of a privilege, and it's a difficult job to achieve. You have to really know your stuff. And Jeff passed 3 parts of the CPA this year, and we think he just passed a 4th one a couple of weeks ago. We're hoping. So we're real proud of him. And our daughter here, Tanya, has our grandson with us today, Nicholas, who is 2. And as far as those our age, we're all just kind of working as hard as we can, saving our money for retirement. Building it up all around us. Ours is still land, but there are many homes built all around, and it's really beautiful. If you ever get a chance to drive out there, it's about 6 miles north of Prescott and Granite Oaks. They have a development there with custom homes, and we hope to build in a couple of years.
Whoa, fine.
As soon as I can get Diane to quit. She wants to work.
My oldest boy, Bob, got transferred back to Massachusetts in March. But he couldn't move until he got his house sold, so his wife and children stayed here until September. And he flew back every week and built up a lot of mileage points. And so he flew Gina and I back to Massachusetts in October on his mileage points, so we got a free flight back. And while we was back there, we had a nice trip up through Vermont, and we had the ideal day for, they said it was the very peak of the color change, the day we was up there. And it was really gorgeous. And I'm sorry, I can't talk very loud. But anyhow, we have bought a new house back there. It's a beautiful house. It's 2 stories, and then it has a full basement and a full attic. So it's really a 4-story house as far as I'm concerned. And Beverly, our daughter, is back in Maine today, in Portland, Maine. Her and Lloyd went back there for Thanksgiving with Lloyd's sister. And tomorrow they're going to go down to Massachusetts and have a late Thanksgiving dinner with Bob and Debbie and the twins. And Kent has been traveling too, and he can tell you about that.
Yeah, I was just in Colorado. Saturday, Sunday, I spent in Denver with Bev. She says hi. She just moved in her new house. Monday and Tuesday, I was in I was in Pueblo visiting my general manager. My plans were, when I joined BF Goodrich, to move to Colorado in about 2.5, 3 years with the expansion of our new facility. But they came to me a couple of months ago and said, we want to increase the size of the one in Santa Fe Springs. And I said, okay, I think we can do it. Did the preliminary feasibility study on it, went back, told him we can do it. This is what it cost. And he said, great, go home and do it. So now I'll be here through the end of the century at least. But it'll be good. It'll be good for my career, I think. And I'll be coming back every other year now.
I'm going to Maui for a week in February, and we was able to get Aaron out of school a week early to go to Alaska, and we had a great time, Aaron and I, just the 2 of us, all the way up to Fairbanks. We took a helicopter ride when we were there at Denali Park, and got up to about 13,000 feet so we could see the peak. It was pretty well closed in for most everybody that day, but Aaron kept jabbing the pilot to get a little higher, and pretty soon we saw it. We had a great time then. I'll let Bob tell you the last 6 months of the year. That's the exciting part.
Well, a couple things happened last July. John and Sakura got married. Some of you were there. So now we are in-laws and outlaws and everything else. Big change. Last year was a special year for our high school team that they won their first ever California CIF championship in water polo. And they came back this year, and yesterday they were at Belmont Plaza, and very unexpectedly made it all the way to the finals, and just couldn't quite make it a repeat year, but Aaron had a great game, and we're real proud of him and his team and all that they were able to do. Anything else?
What school?
Los Amigos High School. Part of the, I don't know if you've met, if you haven't met, this is our daughter-in-law, Sakura. Hope you have a chance to meet her. We're glad to have her part of the family.
Before we finish up here, one other thing that I neglected to mention since I turned it over to Bob for the last 6 months, but in the last 6 months, starting in July, right after John and Sakura's wedding, Kevin went to Africa, and he's been there till, he's still there, and he'll be there till January. Most of you, I'm sure, got his letter just this last week. It was one of his communication letters. He's having a good time there, and if any of you think about it and want to pray for him, I'm sure he'd appreciate it.
It's been a quiet year for us, but we're all still doing pretty good. I just briefly, was it this year you got transferred down to Carlsbad?
It was a year ago, July.
Year ago, July. Anyway, he's driving to Carlsbad from San Marguerite every week. And let's see, Rick and Vic are still living in Garden Grove. Rick is working for who?
Who? I work for Avnet, electronic marketing group. I just got promoted to a regional position, area quality manager, doing training for people in business process improvement. I'm responsible for all of Southern California, Arizona, and New Mexico. And also I was ordained this year, so I'm an official Rev for Living Faith Church. And the kids have been real busy. Ryan playing baseball, Jamie acting and singing, and Jason in the Gifted and Talented Education School this year. He's really been able to excel. And Vicky's on her last day of her 3rd decade today, so she starts the 4th one tomorrow.
Today your birthday or tomorrow? Tomorrow. Okay, I might just add that Laura and Jeff couldn't be with us this year, but Laura is attending Northern Arizona University on an academic scholarship, and she's doing very, very well. She's on the honor roll, and Jeff is in high school now, right? Jeff's in high school, and he's also a good student.
He's been playing the alto sax for about 3 years, and so as a freshman he's on the marching band. And he said, I'm really enjoying it a lot, Dad. I've made a lot of new friends, and a lot of them are senior girls.
What level is Jeff now?
He's a freshman.
He's a freshman. Well, he's got his eye on the senior girls. Okay, well, that's all right. And let's see, Jim, of course, and Nicole are still in the television business, and Jim's doing what he does, and Nicole is with CNBC, producer, and she just recently did a interview with Carmen. Most of you know Carmen is one of the foremost Christian singers, and he came to the church here and interviewed, and then met with our teen group for about a half hour or so, or actually a bunch of kids that could make it out that day, and they had an exciting time, got his autograph on all their albums and everything. That was kind of exciting for them. Anything you guys want to add? No?
We got that way.
He's working that way.
Buck and Ann, they live in Chino Hills, and Buck is kind of a semi-self-employed. He works for a company that he's also a part ownership kind of a thing. They bought out the management, And then, I don't know, why don't you tell them what you do and what's going on in the town?
I work for a company called Paul Monroe Engineering, and my title is a manager of design drafting, but it's a small company, so wear many hats there. And Ann works for Allergan Pharmaceuticals. Still, as she says, she's looking for something closer to home. And yeah, retirement would be nice. And the kids are doing real well in school. Mandy and Shane are both in the GATE program. And last year, Mandy took top honors in her class for school. And with that, going to make a trip to England and Scotland next year with the honors program in, is it April?
April.
And so we're real excited about that. And they're all doing real well. Oh, and Valerie started kindergarten, yes.
She's doing well too. She's outside playing with Katie.
I don't know if I'll make it or not. When I just get up, it really hurts.
There. Move over this way and I'll stand up.
And I can't hear anything, so I don't know what I'm saying.
This is gonna be good, you guys. Just wait. You hear us?
Okay, are you in the same key it's written in? Same key it's written in? Close enough. Close enough.
I don't think it's going to matter much.
Okay, give us an intro. No. Oh, I'm sorry, I started with the chorus. Let's try it again.
Start with the chorus? Okay.
What do we start with?
Start with the verse.
Okay.
I am weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk. Let me walk close to thee. Just a closer walk with thee. Friend, Jesus is my plea. Guide me walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be.
We're off.
That wasn't very good.
I think our singing days are over.
Man, I haven't sung that song for 40 years.
We better not celebrate anymore.
Don't ever put that on tape. He didn't get that on. Oh, did you take that on
Yeah,
that
he
movie?
took pictures.
Oh my gracious.
Wasn't that good, Diane?
Of course, we were still in the covered wagon when we got into Huntington Beach, which was in the spring of 1921. And we parked down there about where First Street is now in Huntington Beach, right on the ocean front. There was a railroad track run along there, between there and the little street that was there. The street didn't go through clear to Newport at that time. It just went down about a mile. And we parked right there on the ocean front, and there I learned to fish. I got me a string, just a regular old piece of twine, and I got me a couple of 3 hooks and tied on there, and an old nut for a sinker. And I could just catch fish just as fast as I could pull them in. That ocean was full of little fish, which made it a lot of fun for me. I fished nearly every day. Then we moved from there into the campground because there was an oil boom on in Huntington Beach at the time. And there wasn't any houses that you could rent. And so we moved into the campground, into a tent, and a little house that they had there. And this was the Methodist campground. This was their convention campground. They had a great big building right in the center of a 4-block area, and that's where they held their big conventions. And that's why they had all this camping equipment around there. In about 1923, we moved to Talbot for a year. And it was there that my sister Betty was born. And Talbot, Talbot is Fountain Valley. Talbot was the name of the people that lived there, the prominent people that lived there. Sam Talbot lived there. Then we came back to Huntington Beach, and we had to go in the campground again for about 6 months. We still couldn't get a house. And then we found a house, and we moved into that. And that's where Dad bought I think it was a 1923 Studebaker, and he bought it about 24 or 25, and they just painted it all up, and I thought that was the finest car. When I was about 18 or 19, Dad gave me the car. I was going to, they had taken it to Old Mexico on a trip and pretty well beat it up, but I overhauled it and used it for a while. But to get back to the story, well, let's see.
Did your mom and dad ever mention to you why they moved to Huntington Beach?
You want to tell them, or do you know?
No, I don't know.
Well,
I've heard it.
This is what I've heard. Now, I was just 8 years old when we moved to California, or come to California, and I wasn't much interested in why we were coming. I just was enjoying everything as we went along. So I never asked any questions as to why, but my cousin Alice and her mother had got it all figured out, I guess. So Mother, according to them, thought that the Lord was about to come, and she was going to come to California. I don't know why. Maybe so she could get a ship and go back to Israel. I don't know. I never did get the complete story. But anyway, that's as good a reason as any. And when we got out here, while I was still in the campground, while we were still living there in the campground, why I started to the Methodist Church as a Sunday school, in the Sunday school. And when we came back from Talbot, in the meantime, we had started going to a little tent meeting there on 11th and Magnolia, was it?
11th and Magnolia.
And they had the tent built right in back of where the church finally was built, and the parsonage was built right where the tent was later on.
What kind of church was that?
Well, it was a Pentecostal church. They were Pentecostal people, and we didn't really have any name other than just Pentecostal. And so we went to that tent meeting there. We drove in from Talbot to go to that tent meeting, and they took up offerings to build the church while we were in Talbot. And I remember one time they asked for some donations, and Dad said he'd give $25. And I thought, $25? My golly, all the money we got, I guess, is going to go into that church. But anyway, they gave it, and we never missed a meal anyway. So anyhow, we came back from Talbot, and we went in the campground, And then we found a little house and we moved into it down on 714 Delaware Street. And we've been on Delaware Street all the rest of our life. That is, I have, and
So have I.
Thelma moved in with me in about 1934 or 5 on Delaware Street.
What were your mom and dad like?
Well, Mom was
Very devout Christian.
yeah, she really loved the Lord, Mama did. She had talked with some Seventh-day Adventists over in Arizona before we came, and she thought that they had a pretty good idea of what it was to serve God. And after we got over here and got to go into that Pentecostal church, Mother she really thought she had found the right thing, and she got the baptism of the Holy Spirit then, and spoke in tongues, and so she decided that was the church she was going to go to. Well, Dad went right along with her. He never had much to say about church things or religion or anything like that, but he went along with Mother and agreed with everything she wanted to do, and so I really believe that Dad made it through just like Mom did. He was an oil worker, and he got killed in 1944 on the rig floor, and so that put quite a dent in Mom and Dad's relationship. But to get back to
Sure.
when we were younger, we lived there for a few years on Delaware Street in that little, we call it the little gray house at 714 Delaware. Then we moved up Delaware and went into another house which we called the Brown House, and it was 918 Delaware. And about 1929, probably in the winter or early spring, we moved out on the lease. That was the Richfield property, and we moved out on the lease. And the folks lived there until they put the house in next to me. They put that big house that Betty lives in, they put it in there next to my house. But Mother started prayers, what she called prayers, every morning. She had a reading of the scripture, and the whole family sat at the table after breakfast, and she had prayers, and so she really rooted and grounded the children pretty well in the scriptures. And I think that's done more for us than anything else. Mother was she had been a school teacher, and she was able to organize her material, and she was able to present it in a real good manner. And so we all felt free to ask questions or to add a word here or there, and she would come along with the right answer if we didn't happen to have it. And there was a little rebellion. I mean, not much rebellion, but there was just a lot of children don't quite realize at that age exactly what loving and serving God really means. But we were getting the idea along, and we would do things that they'd have to correct us for, sometimes pretty severely. But Mom and Dad stayed together on that correction, and if Mother decided that she had to correct a child, she corrected him, and Dad stood behind her. And if Dad had to correct a child, Mom stood behind him. So there was never any problem as to, there was no fuss between Mom and Dad as to correction. Correction had to take place. We lived in that house for, as I say, for till about 1929. From about 1926, I guess it was, or maybe late 1925, we might have moved there in that brown house.
How did your mom and dad meet?
What's that?
How did they meet?
How did they meet?
Oh, well, I'll tell you about that.
In Arizona.
Grandpa Rohrig was out on the main road
In Arizona.
in Arizona, and his place was right in front of my grandfather's place, my grandfather Turner. That's where my mother is a Turner. And you went past Grandpa Rohrig's place, and you come kind of down a long lane, and then you come into Grandpa's place, and he had quite a lot of acreage in there, clear down to the river. As a matter of fact, he had the first water right in the Salt River Valley. And Dad, I guess, had met Mother. I don't know when he first met her, but he got to where he was starting to spark her a little bit, and he would come through the Grandpa Rohrig's field and jump the fence, and then come on over, and he'd come over and visit Mom, and they'd do whatever they did. I don't know. Probably talked and visited and maybe got their arm around each other. I couldn't tell you for sure. But what most people do. And Mom always told the story about how Dad come through the field there one night, and an old white cow jumped up in front of him and scared him half to death, and he run all the way over there, and when he got there he couldn't talk. He was out of breath. But anyhow,
that's how they met.
That's when they started going together. And then in 1912 they got married. And I was the firstborn. I was born in February the 3rd of 1913. I don't know any more about their getting together life than just about that. That's about it.
Well, now, your dad, how old were you when your dad passed away from?
Well, he passed away in 43, 4. I was about 30, 31.
So you were already with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How did, Thelma, how did you feel about your in-laws?
Well, they were about the same category of families as mine was, you know. But they were a Christian family, where in my family, well, I guess my mother was a Christian, and my sisters, and we went to church. But that's where I met Frank, you know, was at the church where we went. See, we came to Huntington Beach the same time they did, their family did. There was an oil boom going on, you know, and that's why we came to Huntington Beach. And so we met at the little church there on 11th Street.
Well, so then you were around then when he lost his dad.
Oh, yes, we lived next door to each other. They were living next door.
How did everybody handle that?
Well, it was pretty rugged. The way it happened, his dad had gone to work in the afternoon, an afternoon shift, and it was about 6 o'clock in the evening, and his boss, I guess it was his boss, came to the door and rang the doorbell, and I went to the door, and he said he wanted to talk to Frank, so he came to the door and said, I want you to go with me next door to your mother. He says, your dad was killed on the job, and I want to go over and talk to her. So that's how we were approached, you know, and heard about it. So it was pretty sad.
How did she take that?
She took it pretty hard, don't you think?
Yes, she took it very hard, very hard. They were having a prayer meeting over there. Some of the friends of Mother, there's quite a group of women. And I don't know what Dick Boggs thought of it when I knocked on the door and walked in, and all those women were praying. But I told Mom we just had to talk to her. So everybody just kind of sat back, and we told her the story. Go ahead, Mom.
Well, I guess that was about it.
She had done quite a lot of personal testimony all of the time we were in Huntington Beach, practically, after we came back from Talbot. She had witnessed to a lot of people and brought a lot of people to the Lord. And then she got to thinking that she'd like to have a church. She'd like to get into the work a little bit. She may have felt drawn by the Lord. I'm not positive on that. Anyway, she talked about it a little bit, and then she said, there's a little church out here, and the pastor wants to sell it or get rid of it. And so she thought about buying it, and she got to dealing with it, and she did. She bought the church and the parsonage that went with it. And she moved out there, and there was a little congregation when she started, when she come out there. And so she began to work with those people, and she had a pretty nice congregation by the time she talked George into being the pastor, which was just a few years before, probably 2 or 3 years before she died. Actually, he wasn't the pastor then until she did die, but he had a lot of practice in there of preaching and kind of running the church.
And then she asked Martin too, you know. And Martin helped a little bit.
Yeah, Martin helped too. But Martin really didn't want to be a preacher.
He wasn't called.
And George and Doreen, they kind of felt like that was what they wanted to do.
Oh, the Lord called them, I think, to do that.
Well, yeah, well, you have to kind of feel like the Lord has called you. You have to kind of know it within you before you really get out and do anything about it. In any case, then George took over the church, and from that point, he can tell you more about that church than any one of us.
But that's why we're here today, because she bought that little church so many years ago. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be sitting here today.
No, we wouldn't.
In this nice place.
What do you think of this church?
Oh, I think it's lovely. I wish we could come over more, you know. I've been wanting to come over. Yeah.
Well, I've been here a time or two, and I'll tell you what I enjoy about this church is that there seems to be a sense of spirituality here.
And a real love.
And you can I don't know how you would know that, but I just know that I feel it inside of me, that there's the same spirit that I have with me is here, and that makes the church feel just about like home when you first step in.
And it traces back to what he was taught and what you were taught, and how you were grounded in the same beliefs, the same principles, the Word of God. She must have felt it real strongly, and she must have been a good teacher.
She was.
You all got the measure.
Yeah.
A good teacher.
Yeah, she was a very good teacher.
I am surprised there wasn't more rebellion, because you're right, when you have all those kids trying to teach him, I can see little boys have ants in their pants.
Yeah.
Run out the door and play.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's hard to do that.
And of course, there was quite a few of us before we got done. There was 9 of us children, and then Mom and Dad made 11. And Mom and Dad run the kind of a house where any of the relatives or any of the friends, even of the children, were welcome into that house. And they were welcome to sit down at dinner. I'll tell you something that did happen. We were still in the Brown house down on Delaware, and I had a friend that he just died here a few years ago. He finally became a preacher and preached for a number of years. But he was just a boy at the time, as I was, and I'd invited him before to come in and have dinner with us several times. Well, this was just the time when Mother was having a baby. Maybe it was Johnny that was being born. I'm not real sure. I'd have to think about that a while. And she had this old friend of hers, a nurse, practical nurse, and she was running the house. And so I invited Dick to come in. I never thought nothing about it. I just said, Dick, come on in and have supper. And she told me right in front of him that there'd be no more of that. She wasn't going to be cooking for everybody that was in the country. So that really disturbed me. So after a day or two, or in the next, I don't know, just right after that, I talked with Mom about it. She says, well, some people, they act a little different than we do. They have different rules to go by. So she's in here now, and I'm in bed and can't do nothing about it much. So just kind of forget it.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to forget it, but I do remember it. It was quite a shock to me.
I was born in the Brown house that Frank mentioned earlier in Huntington Beach, and I don't remember a whole lot about it. I just remember that Dad was working afternoon a shift, and I didn't get to see him very often. And I was very small when we left there. I was 3 years old when we moved to the yellow house on the lease, Richfield Oil Company lease. But the thing I remember most before we moved is a trip to Mexico. And I remember we got down close to Monterey, Mexico, and we got stuck in a river in an old touring car that I think it was a Studebaker that we was in. And Dad had to go and get some Mexicans with mules to pull us out of this thing. And they finally got us out, but there was some kind of trouble with the car, and so we was going to take the train. And we went down and got on the train, and we didn't understand the language too well, and we went past our station. And so we got off at the next station, and they put us on a hand truck, one of these things the workers use on the railroad. And a couple of the Mexican fellows pumped us back to the last station again. And I remember they have something that's kind of a cane or a candy or something called dulce down in Mexico. And, you know, as a kid, I had a sweet tooth. And I remember my dad spanking me real good because I kept getting into that dulce. And then most of the memories, early memories of my dad, were just kind of everyday memories that you have. But then I remember right after the earthquake in 1933, I was about 6½, and there had been some damage around on this company lease that we was on, and they was going to repair some of the pipes. And they had dug up the pipes, and they had to saw some of the pipes in two. And I told Dad, I want to do that. And so Dad was awful picky about how you use tools. You had to use them right. And I got down there on my hands and knees, and I took that hex on, I pushed down, and I drug it back. And about that time, I landed on the other side of the ditch. He took his foot and really got me good. He says, you don't ever drag a saw back. You pick it up and bring it back. And I learned my lesson right there, right quick. And then I don't, I can remember Dad and his garden especially. Yeah, always had a great big garden. And I can remember going out there in that garden with him when I was a kid, and he'd take a salt shaker with him, or maybe a sugar bowl. And he'd take a head of lettuce, and he'd take a leaf off that lettuce, right fresh out of the garden, sprinkle a little sugar on it, and eat it. And I got to doing that. I thought that was just great, you know. You'd eat them fresh tomatoes and put a little salt on them. And we'd stand out there for 2 or 3 hours sometimes, just talking, look at the garden, and maybe do a little weeding or whatever, and eat them fresh vegetables. Then every year he would make I don't know what you call it, but he'd make a big mound of dirt, and he'd bury potatoes and carrots in it. And then in the middle of winter, you go dig them up, and they'd be just as fresh as if they were just pulled out of the garden. Well, I guess he, coming from a farm family, I guess that's where he learned most of it. And then my dad was a very tender-hearted man. He really was. And he just couldn't stand to see an animal hurt or something like that. And when I was about 14, I went and bought a horse. And I don't know what happened, whether I bought it that way or it happened right after I got the horse. But something happened to the right ankle, and it kept swelling up. And Dad got real concerned about that. And he started treating that horse's ankle, and he'd wrap it with some kind of a hot plaster or something. And he cured that horse. And I was so tickled about that. I paid $125 for that horse, and that was a lot of money in 1940. And it was a tan horse with a flax-colored tail and mane, kind of like a Palomino, but not a true Palomino. But Dad never would ride that horse. He was an excellent rider, but he never would ride that horse. I guess that's it. He figured that I didn't weigh that much, so he let me do it. Then about 6 months later, I bought a car. I paid $30 for it, and it was an old 1929 Chevrolet. It didn't have any fenders, no taillights, no clutch. It had to synchronize shifting because the clutch didn't work. The brakes weren't too good either. And I was afraid to bring it home. So I would park it down in the oil fields. There was an old abandoned well there, and I'd pull it in there and park it. And that lasted for about 2 weeks, and Dad found it. Yeah, he saw me driving it or something. And boy, I really caught it, but he let me keep it. And that's a surprise. Main thing all my life, my dad always chewed tobacco. And he had chew mail pouch and horseshoe. Mail pouch come loose tobacco, and horseshoe was a plug. And he'd take a bite of one, and he'd take some of the other and mix it. And I remember Mom, she'd get on. He'd roll down the window, spit out the window of the car when it was going, and the whole side of the car. And she thought that was the filthiest habit there ever was. And it was a pretty filthy habit. And Dad was German, or half German, and he liked beer. But I'll say one thing, he didn't drink very much. He'd have a beer maybe once or twice a year, and just one or two, out of respect for Mom. Because he didn't do too many things to displease her except chew that tobacco. He really loved Mom, I'm sure. And I could only remember them having one argument my whole life. And Mom was sitting at the table, and they were arguing, and I don't know what it was about, but that was the only time that I can ever remember them having any kind of argument at all. I guess they had them, but not in front of me. Yeah. And Dad did some things like preserving seed beans from one year to the next. He grew some of those beautiful string beans you ever saw, big, long string beans, and very tender. And he'd take and put them in a jar, the seeds, and put tobacco in there. And the tobacco would keep the worms or whatever was out of them. So they'd have new, fresh seeds every year. And there's a lot of little things that Dad did that just you don't even think about anymore. People don't do it anymore. But I was in the Navy in 1943, and I was up in the San Francisco area when Dad was killed on a well. And Mom sent word up there, but there was some kind of mix-up, and I didn't find out about it until I was overseas. And so I didn't get to attend the funeral or anything. And so my memories of my dad, he was a healthy, hardy man. Yeah. It was hard. It really hurt me. But he was a great man. He really was. and as honest as the day is long. I don't think there could have been a more honest man than my dad was.
Well, David was just younger than I. He was born in Arizona, and just before he went overseas, World War II, he was married. And he has a daughter now, and it's Sharon. And his wife married his first cousin, so it turned out real well. But David flew a B-17, and he's quite a good pilot. And he flew out of North Africa for quite a while, and they moved up to Italy, and he got yellow jaundice. He was off for about 6 weeks, not flying, and the first flight out, the 25th flight, and they come home, and he was the captain leading the rest of the bombers over. They were flying to Romania to bomb the oil fields, and they got close to Athens, Greece, and he was the lead plane, which is usually the safest plane, but it was hit in the waist and blew the tail off, and it went down in the Aegean Sea there. After the war, they did find the body, or find the plane, and took the remains out, and he's buried in St. Louis now. Yes. One of my favorite memories of Mother and Dad, I was living in San Diego, and they came down to visit us, and we went to a funeral of my dad's brother-in-law down in Clexico. And on the way, Mother talked a lot, something she, besides ministering to us, she recited a lot of poems she had learned in school, and we had a real fun time, even though they did give us a steak we couldn't chew down there. But that's one of my favorite times with Mother, going down and coming back. About an hour and a half in the car each way. And so Dad at this time was in good shape, good health, and so they stayed all night, and we enjoyed them. That's one of my favorite time with Mother. Mother was kind of peculiar in a way. She never singled out any child to be particularly fond of or good to, except when we were alone. And if we were alone with her, then we were the only one in the world. And that made each one of us just love her more. But she was that kind of gal. She wouldn't take sides when we were together, but otherwise she would give us a little extra dessert or give us some love and kissing, and that's the kind of woman she was.